Yes, everybody, welcome back to Talking Walls. Welcome back to a brand new match preview. It's been a couple of weeks since the last game. Of course, last weekend's game got postponed. But Wolves are back in action this weekend. They're going to be hosting Manchester City, the reigning Premier League champions, at Molineux this weekend. Lots to discuss, and obviously let me know your thoughts ahead of this game in the comments section down below. We have got a Betmate game as well for this weekend. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, but the link for that is in the top of the description. But Wolves, of course, this is since the last game, which was the win over Southampton, seems like such a long time ago, due to the unforeseen circumstances last week with the passing of the Queen. Obviously, last weekend's games here in England got postponed, but we're back in action. One of a number of games in the Premier League. Obviously, a few others have been postponed, and it's going to be a tough game. I know we were meant to be playing Liverpool last week. A lot of people were looking forward to that game because obviously Liverpool were on a little bit of a sticky run, but now we come back into it in a really tough game. But the positives to Wolves are that you would hope players are fresher, they're fitter, they've got more of an idea of what's going on. We've had more time to prepare. And Manchester City have obviously just come off the back of a couple of games in Europe as well since we last played. Last night they just played and beat Dortmund, came from behind. I've got to say, two fantastic goals. Erling Haaland's goal as well. Second goal in stoppage time was fantastic. So they're a team, looking good. Winning mentality right now, Manchester City, as they always have been. And that man that I just mentioned, Erling Haaland, is going to be one hell of a player to try and stop. Kilman and Collins, as it stands on paper, the best two centre-backs with defensive record in the league. I think the whole back four, the goalkeeper Jose Sarr, even the likes of Ruben Neves, have all contributed massively towards our defensive record so far. But, of course, we've got new players that may well be part of the squad. We've got Boubacar Traore, who's now in Wolverhampton, flew from France, and has been sort of integrated and training with the team recently. So I'd assume we'll see him in the squad for Saturday's game. We've also got, of course, Mr. Diego Costa. Of course, the last match preview, I'm not even sure, he was on our lips. But now, here he is, Diego Costa. He's going to be, obviously, he's a Wolves player. I think he will be in the squad. I don't think he'll start on Saturday, but I think we may well see him in the squad. But imagine, maybe 70, 75 minutes gone. We're holding Manchester City, and Costa comes on the pitch. The roar at Molineux is going to be phenomenal. Of course, you may have seen there's going to be a few things going on before and during the game to honour the Queen who has passed away. Managers apparently have been asked to wear suits if they would. They may well be leading the teams out. There'll be a national anthem before kick-off. Fans have been asked to do an applause on 70 minutes as well. So there's going to be a lot going on. It's a big occasion, and hopefully, the Wolves fans can, do us proud with that. And I think that's one of the reasons why, the Premier League were worried about last weekend's game, that, there were going to be sections of some supporters and fan bases that were going to let the country down almost. But the full focus is on football, though, for Wolves. It's going to be a tricky game. We know it's going to be a tricky game. This is my predicted lineup for the match. Quite difficult to say right now, but Raul Jimenez, I'm not sure what's going on with him at the moment. Very, very grey area with him. There's been talks of possibly a groin injury again. He was named in the squad initially for the Southampton game and then pulled out at the start, and then Bruno said he had chronic fatigue. Why would you be in the squad if you've got chronic fatigue? So I would go with this front three, I think Neto, Guedes and Podence again. Midfield three, I think, of Nunes, Neves and Moutinho again. Sarr in goal, obviously. Back two, obviously, of Kilman and Collins. Fullbacks are difficult. I'm going to go opt with Aït-Nouri and Johnny again. Just not 100% sure on Semedo's status at the moment. That could easily change. Things could change, obviously, in Bruno Lage's press conference. But imagine the likes of Boubacar Traore on the bench, whose pressing game and energy is so vital. Imagine him coming on for another sort of 20, 30 minutes towards the end of the game. Diego Costa, like I said earlier, if he's fit enough, he did mention in his sort of interviews and so on, he may need 2 or 3 weeks to get match fit and ready. I think, obviously, with the game being postponed last week, he's had a little bit more time to prepare. He's obviously got an international break after this as well, so he's going to be in a much better state in a couple of weeks, I think. But just his energy. I think, if you've seen a YouTube video on the behind the scenes, I think, it's well worth a good watch. I think it's about 18 minutes long, but you can just see he brings a real presence to the place. So, yeah, looking forward to the game. City, tough game, really tough game for Wolves, but final one before the international break. Been a while. It feels like a while, but it hasn't actually been that long. 2 weeks since we've been at Molineux. Hopefully we can go and grab a result. Going to be tough though. Anyway, I spoke to Jay, who's a Manchester City fan, to try and get the City perspective ahead of this game. So then, guys, delighted to welcome Jay here, Manchester City fan, to give his thoughts ahead of Wolves City at Molineux this weekend. Firstly, mate, how are you keeping?
Yeah, good. Thank you very much, mate. You?
Yeah, all good, thank you. I appreciate you
Good,
jumping
good,
on
good.
with us. Manchester
No
City,
problem.
obviously reigning champions in the Premier League, unbeaten start as well to the season, which we'll talk about a little bit more as well. We may as well start there. It's been an immaculate start, more or less, for City. Some big wins in there as well, smashing Forest 6-0, which is always nice. I think with the amount of signings they've got in, I thought, part of me sort of wants them to struggle. Just a little bit of me wants them to struggle. So it's nice when a team smashes six past them. But what have you made of City's start so far? Obviously, the most recent game, Villa, was a little bit disappointing, I suppose, from your point of view. But what have you made of City's start so far?
We've looked pretty good so far. We only played 2 preseason games, so when we head into the season, I'm always a bit pessimistic. Not so much about the upcoming season ahead, but more just how we're going to start the season because we're normally quite slow under Pep, whilst
Mm,
we wait for players to return either from international tournaments and everything. But that's not really been the case. So we've kind of hit the ground running here. So we've got ourselves off to a pretty good start, which is good. We're always aiming to try and sit in first place. ASAP. We're not there just yet. So there's obviously areas that we can improve on. I think at home, we've looked good. Away from home, apart from the match against West Ham, we have been there to be got at, and teams have ended up picking up results like Aston Villa in our last Premier League game. So yeah, I'm always optimistic, but always just got that little thought in my head about lots of difficult games, and Wolves away is right up there with a difficult away game for us.
yeah, we've had some great games since we've been since Wolves have been back in the Premier League. A couple of draws in there. I think City have probably just about got the better of us overall, especially last season. I mean that performance at Molineux, Kevin De Bruyne, one of the best individual performances I think I'd seen at Molineux. But a couple of years ago, just before COVID, we got the double that season, which was phenomenal. But we look at City now. I think overall the squad. And obviously that main man up top as well, Erling Haaland. Probably, since Aguero's gone, that's probably, City been great, but probably just lacked a potent goal scorer. How good has he been for you? Like, what was your reaction when he joined, and what's your thoughts on him so far?
When he first joined us, it was very surprising because it's not really how Man City tend to do their transfers. We normally get linked with a player. We have what we know as a saga throughout the transfer window that can go on for months and months and months. Normally, we don't get it over the line. Another club's willing to pay more money. We normally walk away. We draw up a list of contingencies, and we normally go with option B or option C. That's how we ended up with Ruben Diaz. I think it was
Yeah,
option C for us, with Kalidou Koulibaly being option A and Jules Koundé being option B. So we ended up with Diaz at centre back, and I was expecting the same with the strikers. The money that they were demanding for Erling Haaland, I was just like, there's no way City are going to do that. Whilst it'd be amazing to have him in our team, I didn't actually think we were going to get it done. So I think he's one of the best signings that we've made since we've had the takeover, if not the best signing that we have made. And if he does stay at City for the long term, then there's a serious chance there that Erling Haaland could overtake Sergio Aguero's goal record for the club. In terms of his start for the season and how he's got on, we've had that Community Shield game against Liverpool, and everyone was speaking about he doesn't suit City's style, he doesn't suit the system. I think everyone's been made to eat humble pie, really, when they've watched Erling Haaland, because
yeah.
he's not a player that has too many touches, but when he does have touches, they either lead and build up to an attack or they lead to a goal. And that's all Erling Haaland is. His job's there to sit there and be in the right place at the right time to score goals. And he's doing that and more. And it's really nice that we've got a player now that's 6'4" sitting in the box, because we're very good at creating opportunities. We're very good at getting into the attacking third. And if you have a look at last season, we'd tried Kevin De Bruyne, Ilkay Gundogan, Raheem Sterling, Gabriel Jesus. These are all players that have played as what they like to call the false nine, but none of these were natural goal scorers. We've got Erling Haaland in, and boom, 10 goals in 6. And I seriously feel like if we get good 35 games in the Premier League season out of Haaland, there's a realistic chance that he could go on to break 40 goals, which is ridiculous. He's just that good.
Yeah, I think I was one of the ones. I watched the Community Shield and I watched Haaland, and I thought he was in my fantasy Premier League at the time, and I made the very stupid mistake of taking him out. I've only just put him back in, to be fair. So I was one of those daft fans. But yeah, you're right. And I think one of the main almost surprises for me is that I was expecting him to sort of be rotated a little bit more with Alvarez. We've seen it, especially with the amount of Champions League games. We may well see it. Obviously, he played Dortmund this week, just after we record this. So there is a chance that could happen this week. But he's been pretty much ever present for you guys, and I think that is key. If you can keep him fit, like you said, I think his goal record is going to be absolutely phenomenal. And City have strengthened in other areas. Seen Calvin Phillips come in. Akanji came in, was a little bit of a surprising transfer towards the end of the window as well. But the squad depth for City, do you think it's as good as it has been now for a long time? You know, I suppose Pep needs it this year with the amount of fixtures in quick succession.
Well, we've made a lot of sales this season in the summer. So in terms of pound for pound starting 11, I'd even stretch that towards our starting 15 or 16 players that tend to be rotated on a regular basis. I'd say is as strong as ever. However, you dig a little bit deeper into the squad, and you'll start to see some cracks there. I think give us an injury or two, and all of a sudden there is no other player to take over from them, and we are relying then on the young players to step up and make the bench for us. But in terms of the starting 11 that we've had, it's not really had too much of an impact. We've made some good additions, some surprising signings, players that I'm looking forward to seeing. So Manuel Akanji is one of them. He could well start in this game, actually. And he looked so good when we played against Sevilla. He looked like he'd been playing in our system for years. He looked like he'd been at City for years. You wouldn't think that it was his debut, but he just looked so comfortable and so well organised. And he just formed a really good partnership from the off with Ruben Diaz, which was good to see. Another player, Calvin Phillips. We've not had too many opportunities to see him, unfortunately, because he did pick up an injury. We spent, £40+ million here on a player that is a bit suspect to injury. So hopefully he'll be over them, and he'll be able to kick on with his City career. Sergio Gomez, another player that we've brought in. He can fill in at full back if needed. I think Kyle Walker's probably going to be out for this game, so I'm expecting to see Cancelo on the right-hand side, and it could be Gomez sitting on the left-hand side. It could be Nathan Ake as well. One of them two is who I'm expecting to go at left back. So again, another interesting team selection for Pep Guardiola to think about. And then, of course, we brought Alvarez in as well, who looks very lively. So we may well see him in this game too.
Yeah, I remember Wolves were linked with Alvarez before City had signed him. Then I think I saw when you signed him and he was going to go back to River Plate, I think Wolves had inquired then as well, just to sort of get him to stay in the Premier League almost. But obviously, you know, he's made a good start in the little spells that I've seen him. He looks a really tidy player as well. Looking towards the game from a Wolves perspective, are there any players in that Wolves setup that you're worried that could harm Man City on Saturday?
I'd not been a Wolves expert, but so when I look at the team, I think to myself that we're looking at a very well organised, very well drilled, very good defensive team. Particularly your midfield, I look to Ruben Neves. Decent player, always rated him. City have been linked with him in the past. Matheus Nunes, your new signing that you brought in City just 6 months ago, we're getting linked with him as well after he put in an impressive performance for Sporting Club de Portugal against us in the last 16 of the Champions League. João Moutinho I rate as well. So I think that's a very interesting midfield battle there, because you're dealing with what is, in my opinion, a very good Wolves midfield going up against the likes of Rodri, Kevin De Bruyne, potentially either Bernardo Silva or Ilkay Gundogan, depending on where we want to put Bernardo on the pitch. So we're looking at two very good midfields going toe for toe, and I feel like that's probably where the game's going to be won and lost.
Yeah, I think that's been a pretty well ever since the window's closed and everyone's been fit. Pretty much a common theme on these videos and the previews, saying I think that's obviously Wolves' strongest or most consistent point because we've got talented players in the forward areas, but they're just not consistent enough. But that midfield three, and this is going to be their first real big test together. Our only other bigger test was probably against Spurs earlier this season.
Hmm.
So Man City, they're the best team we've played so far this year, so it's going to be a real test for them. Jay, we'll look towards Betmate now. Your channel is also
Yeah.
partnered with Betmate. A massive pot this weekend, guys. Is £6 to enter a £1,000 guaranteed payout. A link obviously is in the top of the description there. Let's start with Jay's team just popping up on the screen now. Talk us through that, mate. What are you thinking behind some of these choices?
So I've gone with Edison in goal. I'm just looking at realistically who's more likely to keep a clean sheet, and I think
Yeah,
being slightly biased towards City, I'm going for Edison to keep a clean sheet. I do like to go for my fullbacks when selecting my Betmate team, so I've gone with Cancelo, who I'm expecting to see on the right hand side for Manchester City, and I've gone for Rayan Nuri at left
yeah.
back for here. I rate him. I think he's a good player, so I thought I'd put a bit of Wolves in there. I will give a compliment to Wolves actually, because normally when I'm doing my bet, mate, there's normally a max out Man City's allowance
Yeah.
with how good we can be. So the fact that I've got two Wolves players in there and not one is a compliment. Midfield, I've gone for Kevin De Bruyne. I was zooming an hour in between him and Bernardo Silva. I've given the nod to De Bruyne just because I think if there's anything special that's going to happen in the game, then Kevin De Bruyne is probably going to be the player that makes that happen. I've gone for Ruben Neves, decent with his interceptions, decent with his
Mhm.
head, just an all-round solid player. I was zooming an hour in a game between him and Matheus Nunes, but I went for Neves, and I've put Nunes on the bench. And then up top, I might chop and change this. I always give
Yeah.
my top tip that you've got up until 5 minutes before kickoff to change your bet, mate. And so when teams are announced an hour before kickoff, you can chop and change your team, which is normally what I do because Pep likes to rotate a lot. So I put Jack Grealish in there just because he's not had that many minutes. I think he might start. And I think it's about time we started to see Jack Grealish start getting assists and goals. So I'm hoping that this is going to be the game that he makes that happen. So I've put Jack Grealish in there, and I've gone for captain Erling Haaland because, quite frankly, it's Erling Haaland who likes scoring goals. 10 in 6. Got to go for him.
Yeah, you have to keep Haaland in there. It'll be interesting if Grealish starts, what sort of reception he'll get at Molineux as well.
Yeah.
This is my team. Again, subject to change, but I've gone pretty similar. I've gone with Sarr in goal only because of probably the saves. I think he'll make a
Hmm.
lot of saves against Man City. So I've gone with Sarr in goal. Cancelo and Aït-Nouri, sort of same reasoning that you've got in there. I've gone with De Bruyne and Bernardo as my middle two, although Neves and Nunes guaranteed points if you want to go down that route. And then I stuck with Neto and Haaland as the front two. Of course, that can easily change depending on Manchester City's lineup. So remember, guys, link in the top of the description, £6 to enter, but £1,000 guaranteed payout, 18 plus UK residents only. Please do gamble aware. Jay, if I have to trouble you now for a score prediction, I mean, as a City fan, you're going to know 9 times out of 10 City are going to get the win. But if you had to put your neck on the line and put a score on it, what are you thinking?
Um, 2-0 Manchester City for this game, and I'm going for Erling Haaland to get both goals. I think it's going to be a difficult game. I think it might take a little while for us to break Wolves down, so I'm going for a couple of second half goals for Erling Haaland to win and get us the 3 points. Fingers
Yeah.
crossed for us.
Yeah, I mean, that Wolves' defensive record so far, like you mentioned earlier, has been good. I think even at the Etihad last year, we it wasn't a positive performance. While Wolves very negative, but we held you really well, and then sort of threw it all away when Jimenez got that really daft red card. So we know if we can frustrate City,
Hmm.
you're there. You are there to frustrate and get on the counter attack. But I think it's going to be a really tough game for Wolves. And yeah, let's see. Lunchtime on Saturday. Jay, thank you very much for joining me, mate.
No
If
problem.
people
Thanks
wish to
for having me
find
on.
you on Twitter, YouTube, what's the best place to find you?
YouTube's a good go-to. Put JSGC and you'll find me on there.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. So, Wolves fans, check that YouTube channel out. I'll be sure to leave a link in the description down below. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
apart from Saturday, mate, all the best for the rest of the
No,
season.
thank you very much. Same to you as well. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers, mate. Thank you. So big thanks to Jay. I'll make sure I leave a link to his YouTube channel in the description down below. Of course, be sure to check out the Betmate game as well. Huge prize pot on offer right now. Guys, let me know your thoughts, your thoughts and score prediction ahead of this game in the comments section. Any big news on the press conference from Bruno Lage tomorrow we'll have on our social medias at Talking Wolves everywhere. But please do enjoy yourselves, enjoy your weekend, guys, and I'll catch you all very, very soon.